I've had to learn that because of what you guys are doing. You don't know the law.
So whereabouts do you guys come from today?
It's none of your business.
Okay. So you're going to give me anything, or you just,
I'm not going to give you anything. I don't want to give you anything. I don't want anything from you, and I don't trust you. I don't like you. I think what you're doing is a vile action against the people, and I think it needs to be decided.
Have a face mask exemption?
None of your business.
Yeah.
You know, you can talk to them, but you know what? You're not going to. No, we're not going to talk to you. We don't want to talk to you.
Are you aware of the CHO directions?
No,
The directions.
It's relevant.
The directions.
It's relevant because I'm not going to talk.
Are
to
you under direction from the CHO?
Yes, I'm talking to him.
No, I don't care. You're talking to us. You're talking to him. You're talking to all of us.
It's inconsistent with the definition of a constable, which is Section 51 of your Act, says the duties and powers of a police officer. Section 51 of your Act, you should know this, are as a constable at common law, and the definition of a constable in the LexisNexis legal dictionary, which is the most prominent legal dictionary, says a police officer has independent authority over their office and that they cannot be directed by the government or senior police. Okay, you're being directed by the government. That's called acting under dictation. That's systemic failure, and the fact that you don't know that shows that there's systemic failure in the system. You should know that. Yeah. You should be doing your job properly.
Nick Patterson, I had heard your name over here in New Zealand long before I actually met you, and I met you a couple of weeks ago when I was in Victoria in Australia. You exceeded my very good expectations of meeting you. You're what the world needs right now. You are a strong, clear warrior man who knows what he stands for. But tell me how it all began, Nick. Where did your journey with this begin that led to the visual we've just seen of you surrounded by police? Where did it all go back to?
Yeah, well, when the first lockdowns happened in Melbourne, which was the very beginning of this lockdown situation, the general consensus for most people was fear and doubt and worry and anxiety. So I wanted to invoke some courage. So I was very bold and very public about keeping my business open. I put in the background effort to look at the legislation, and I could see a clear case that enabled me to keep my business open because we have a human rights charter here. And in order to override it, you have to have a declaration in Parliament to override the Human Rights Charter, and that never happened. Parliament was closed, right? So that would be my legal argument for keeping my business open. So anyway, because I was public and I was very bold about it, police came to my gym, and there was 2 police officers the first time, and they were asking me why my gym was open, and I just had a verbal interaction with them, which ended up becoming a viral video. And when I went back into the gym, because the police ended up leaving, I went back into the gym, and this was a gym full of fighters because it's an MMA gym. We had a fighter from Bulgaria over, a professional fighter. We had all these tough guys in the gym. There's about 25 people in the gym. I walked back into the gym, and there's no one except I think there was one guy still in there. And I said to him, where is everybody? And he said, oh, they've all run out the back. And they've climbed over the fences, the barbed wire fences, in fear of 2 police officers. So I knew from that moment there's something really wrong here. People are overcome with fear. Like, what are you scared of? Why are you scared? If you truly believe that what's happening is wrong, and even if you didn't have a legal argument to use, it doesn't matter. We could be able to stand up for our principles. So anyway, that's when I realized the real issue was actually fear and doubt, and I needed to do something to be very public and bold that would inspire, which inspire just means to have the spirit in, to put that spirit of courage into the people. So we ended up making and editing a video of that interaction, which went viral, and then 2 days later, we ended up with 22 police officers coming to my gym and an authorised health officer as well.
And we'll have a look. We'll have a look at a clip of that now, that viral video you made. But just give us the setting. What year are we talking about? And for people who aren't familiar, your state in Australia, Victoria, was given one of the longest, toughest, cruelest lockdowns in the world for the so-called pandemic, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah, it was. It was absolutely ridiculous. It made no sense. Anyone that has any logical reasoning could look at it and go, no, there's no way. That's ridiculous. And I didn't believe people would even go along with it because of how ridiculous it was. But people did. And I know the reason for that was fear, because I saw that with a whole bunch of fighters at my gym who basically ran out of the back door of the gym in fear because police were coming, which I think some of it's fun too. Like the police are here, let's run. Like I kind of get that. But it was a time for the men to be staunch and just say, no, we're not closing our business down. We have
And
a
what
right.
year was it? What year are we talking when we see this clip coming up?
It was April 2020. It was the very beginning.
And
And
it was under Dan Andrews, who
yeah.
was the leader in Victoria. I would say Dan Andrews, Trudeau, and Ardern were possibly the cruelest of all of the globalist leaders. What do you reckon, Nick?
I think that those three are definitely the trinity of trinities for exactly what you just mentioned.
For evil. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at your piece that went viral, just telling the truth.
Hi there. Very good. How are you? What can I do for you?
Do you know that you're open? We didn't show if you were closed or not.
No, we're only open to private.
But you're closed at the moment.
No, it's private. It's a private space. See? We've got the signs up here. We've got one on the front. It might not be on the front because it's smashed just recently. But we've got it here. So we're by invitation only, and it's not. We're not actually a business. We're not operating as a business.
Okay. Excuse me a minute. I noticed that you're filming us.
Now to film that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am filming, correct.
Yes. So why are you here? What are you here for?
We're here because we are from the Department of Justice, Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason we're here, we just do a COVID compliance check of the business.
Department of Justice. Okay.
Correct.
So what do you want?
So look at things like, you have a COVID safe plan.
Okay. Well, look, what I'll do, I will provide for you whatever it is you want on the condition that you provide me some evidence that there's grounds for you to require those that COVID safe plan from me.
On the ground.
On the grounds, you can provide some evidence, some reasonable grounds that it's not disproportionate to require me to do extra work when you've already shut me down. You've shut me down and you've taken a lot of money from me.
You're basically
I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about the Department of Justice. And can you have some respect for me? You turned up to my place. You knocked on my door. I'm here, and you're turning your back while I'm speaking to you. That just shows you don't have any quality of character to turn up to my place and start giving me a hard time, and then to turn your back and not listen to me. Now I'm happy to have a chat to you, but if you're going to walk away like that, just shows that you don't have any honour, any integrity, any heart. You've got no heart. That's why you do that for a job, because you've got no heart. Go find some heart and some integrity.
That was brilliant. How did it feel when it went viral? Did you expect that? Did you expect it to have such popularity everywhere around Australia and even around the world?
I had no idea that it would go that way. I mean, we were on Vimeo. We weren't even on YouTube, but it was the nature of what was in the video that I think, and it just caught the algorithms because people were looking for that. People needed that. And then people were just sharing it like crazy and downloading it. And then I'd see it on other people's channels, which was just, and that was what I wanted to do, invoke some courage inside of people to go, you're right. Because the evil people out there, the Ardern's and the Trudeaus and the Dan Andrews and whoever they actually work for, these people operate in this world they get their power from their ability to perpetuate lies. So they perpetuate a false narrative. That false narrative is what they use to justify whatever powers and rights they want to take away and powers they want to justify giving to themselves. So when people speak the truth against that lie, the narrative gets broken, and then you're attacking their power base. So you become the enemy. That's what they don't want people to do. But it's a biblical algorithm that we're meant to shout it from the rooftops. We're meant to let our light shine. The light is the truth. We're meant to have integrity, which is also, we're meant to be a rock. We're meant to be stable and firm. And we're meant to, rebuke the unfruitful works of darkness. We're meant to go out there and say that's a lie, that's false, and expose it. And we need to do that in a big way. When people do that, en masse, they can't do anything to stop us. But when it's only a few people, but the majority are still in fear, they will come after you because that's all they have to do. Otherwise, they lose everything. And I found myself in that situation where I was trying to invoke everybody to come on, let's stand up, guys, let's do it. If we all do it, or even if a small percentage do it, but it's a large enough demographic, we're going to be able to break this narrative down. And ultimately, the narrative for the COVID vaccinations and just the whole COVID narrative was broken when we ended up having 2 weeks of rallies where we had massive, massive numbers. One of them was, I think, was about 500,000, but the other one that was the week prior, which wasn't as big, but it was still massive, the police told us their conservative estimates were 340,000, and the week after was bigger. So when you get those kinds of numbers in the city at one place, then the narrative's broken. That's it. There's nothing you can do now. The lies at the top of the upside down world, they've lost control, and that's because we were breaking the rules that they had imposed on us and just going out there and rallying anyway.
And we were showing them no fear. I still remember that day seeing all the workers in their orange vests in Melbourne running towards this giant gathering of people, although there is a bigger story there with the shrine. Let's go back, though, to that video that went viral. When I first spoke my truth, as you said, I just made a call, please, everybody stand up with me. Let's all tell the truth. This is wrong, what Jacinda Ardern is doing. She's our servant, we're not hers. The thing that came back to me was the first wave of what's been many waves, Nick, which was massive trolling, personal abuse. I've realized since then, that comes from the government or government-paid moles and trolls, people who are willing to sell out their country for a bit of money. And they're willing to abuse on a personal level when you are simply trying to be brave and speak the truth. Did you get that in answer to the video?
I did. So 2 days later, we had 22 police come to my gym, and that with a member of the health department, and we had another viral video. And then not long after that was I started to become the subject of trolling, and I was also kicked off most of my social media platforms that I had a presence on. The trolling, when it sort of hit me in a 1 hour period, I remember it because I have a gym page on Facebook, and I remember I'd get usually a 1 or 2 queries on the page about the gym each day, and in about a 45-minute period, I got hundreds, and they were all things like saying, "I hope you die," and just awful stuff. And when I saw that, I went, if my wife sees this is going to affect her. So I had to then shut that page down because I thought this is just horrible. It was clear to me that obviously this is not organic because you don't get, that many people, like hundreds in a 45-minute period, just bang, they're all there. So, it's like some sort of, whether they're bots or whether, I don't know what they are, whether they're shills that have like 100, there might be a few people with 100 different accounts all just writing horrible things, and that's what they're doing. I don't know. I know those sorts of things do happen. But it was, it was pretty nasty, but that just confirms that what I was doing was correct and right, because I understand the biblical principle that if you speak the truth and you do the truth, because the truth isn't just something you speak, you have to do it and live it.
Yes.
That will cause the enemy to persecute you and to hate you and to come after you, because it's like the kryptonite for the evil is the truth. They can't deal with it because they exist in a lie. That's where they live. They live in the darkness.
That's so beautiful. I need to go there right now. Can you rewind to, was it a childhood in which you were schooled in having a deep faith, or how have you developed the depth of your faith, Nick? Because it imbues every single thing you say and do. And I believe it's a huge part of where the world has to go to have the courage now to make the changes the world needs. So where did it come from for you?
So I was brought up non-religious. although my mother did teach me to pray at a very young age, never went to church until I was a teenager when I started to go to church. When I met somebody that was preaching in the city, and then I had an interest in it. But prior to that, I'd never gone to church. It was just that I prayed religiously because my mother had taught me to pray, and I don't even know if she realized that I prayed every morning and every night, every day. I just did it from as young as I can remember. And through that process, you start to build a relationship with God, and you start to see and experience that the spiritual things that you can't generally see with your eyes. And you realize that there is more going on. There's more variables that are unseen. And the more understanding that I've been able to obtain in that realm enables me to have more confidence to do the things that objectively appear to be impossible. Because when you look at the world, you think, they've got all this power, the enemy, they've got all these evil people, they control the judiciary, they govern the media. How can you beat them? Well, I believe in the promises of God, and that the truth is more powerful than the lie. So if I could go house to house and speak the truth to people, but it's better if you do something that's big enough that people see it in real time and they become inspired by it. And then that really reaches, it's not just words out of someone's mouth, they're seeing it in real time. And you think of it like a word, you think of the word love, right? Or courage. It's a word on paper and it has a definition. But when you see someone do something from a place of love or courage, it becomes real. And people go, that not everybody, but a lot of people go, I resonate with that. That makes sense to me. I want to do that as well. So I've always wanted to do what I can to fulfill my purpose here, which is good. We're born with a conscience, and I've always had this desire, even from a young age, to do what's just and fair. And I even pray for opportunities to do things. And that's where wisdom comes in, because it's, you don't want to force something to happen. You want to do it when it's the time, and obviously that requires some patience. But yeah, throughout my life, I've always been focused on that. I'm here not just to work a job and just to have a holiday twice a year or whatever. That to me is really meaningless. There has to be more to life. And that goes to that Bible verse where it says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." Right, and I want to be one of those chosen ones. But in order to be that, you've got to be willing to suffer and endure and go through the pain and the anguish and all of the tough times. Otherwise, and I actually learned a lot of this from fighting. I had a really good coach. He was a mentor of mine. He's an older guy from Boston, but he lived over here for nearly half of his life.
What was
And
his name, Nick? What was his name?
Ed Bavlock.
Ah, right.
Bavlock, yeah. And he just
Did he ever know Joe Rogan? Because Rogan was over that way, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he does know Joe Rogan from back in. Actually, Joe's talked about him on his podcast before.
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
So he was my coach, and yeah, he used to teach me about fighting, and he would say things that would resonate with my Christian understanding, my biblical understanding, which was, he'd say, when you're fighting, focus on the things that you have control over. Don't focus on the things you don't have control over. He would say things like this that would inspire me to, and he would like he would train you, and it would be painful, and you'd almost want to cry. Sometimes it was that hard. But he'd say, we're separating the men from the boys, right? Things like this over. But the people that are willing to go through all that pain and all of that, that discipline, are the ones that end up making it and becoming something in the sport. Well, you apply that same thing to anything that you do. Whether it's spiritual things, and when I talk about spiritual things, I'm talking about principles, courage, justice, fairness, love. These are the spiritual things, the things that are unseen with your physical eyes, but you can see the effects of them. Well, you apply that, like if you want to have and be able to apply the most justice or the most goodness or the most faith, you've got to train up for that. You've got to put the hard work in to do it. and it's not easy. It's not easy just to trust in God and go, oh, God's got my back. Well, no, you've got to learn who God is so that you understand his nature and make sure that you're making the right decisions and that you are, you're going to be protected for doing what you're doing. Like if I just go out and do anything, thinking, oh, God's got my back, well, I might be fighting against God. I might be fighting against justice. I might be getting in the way, right? So you've got to put the effort in. And sometimes putting that effort in and that learning in is actually quite painful. And it causes you to go on a bit of a journey in which you do cop some persecution. You might lose some friends and the likes. But at the end of the day, if you keep your eye focused on the end goal, which is I want to do what I was created to do. I want to be what I was created to be. I'm not just a monkey fish frog that was created that has no purpose. And I don't define my own purpose. God makes men who they are. If I can keep focusing on that as the end result, then I have a vision, a clear vision of where I need to go. And I would love more people to see their life in that way because it's meaningful and it's something that will enable them to maximize their capacity for doing good in this world. But it's very hard to do that when you come out of university without any understanding of spiritual principles and thinking that you are just a monkey fish frog. And I think that's a big issue that we're dealing with as well. That which brings in all the cultural Marxism and all the rest of it that we have in the Western society now.
There's so much in what you're saying. And Marxism, of course, hates anything to do with God. So that's one of the first things when we had our first truly Marxist prime minister, Helen Clark, years ago in the early 2000s, late 1990s. She got rid of God as much as she could out of New Zealand, out of schools, out of there was a sort of sneering derision towards anything mentioning God. And this country, New Zealand, has suffered so much because of it, I believe. It's made people so weak because it does demand enormous strength. You're not offering, as you say, the easy path. I've just gone through a really tumultuous time. And yet I know that there is a higher purpose for it all. I know that I am looked after by this higher power. And it's deeply humbling because you have to go thy way, not my way. I wouldn't have chosen to go through what I'm going through, but in it, I'm learning who's truly, say, loyal or true, somebody I could really work with, as opposed to those who are fickle and not the ones to go forward with. So that's just one small example, Nick. So I should be grateful for that. I'm learning about my own strength. I should be grateful for that. It's that kind of learning, isn't it? It's not easy.
Well, it's where you discover where the source of our strength actually comes. It comes from, and it comes from when you understand that the kingdom of God's within you. It's within you. It's an internal thing. And what's inside of you? The spirit. We're just a vessel, and it's the spiritual things that are inside of us. So we want to have courage inside of us, right? But how do you have courage inside of you? Hey, Hannah, please. That's my daughter's just running. She wants to give me a hug.
How old is she, Nick? How old is she?
4. Bye, Hannah. Bye. She's 4. 5 children. I got 4 boys and a little girl. So that's my inspiration. There is those guys. I want them to understand what it is to be moral and to be strong. But anyway, getting back on the point, we're just a vessel, right? We're just a vessel that because what motivates us as people, whether you believe in spiritual things or not, I think we could all agree that there's something inside of us that motivates us, right? What we read biblically is the heart, which just means your will. People have a will, and then the will, which is all the things you want, goes to your mind, and then you think about how to get the things that you want, and then you put that into action, right? So thought precedes the action, but before the action is the will, which is the heart. And if your heart's clean, then you're directly connected to your conscience. What can I do to make things better? If your heart's corrupted, your will's corrupted, you want the things that you shouldn't have, which we see with obviously in the political realm. They want to take things from people. They want to have their big, I would say they're getting big bags of money. But maybe they've got a more sophisticated system now. I don't know. But the point is, we want to have people who can resonate with courage or justice or fairness or love, all of these things that are spiritual principles, because you can't put love into a box. He's a kilogram of, he's a cubic meter of love. It's not a physical thing. He's a cubic meter of courage. There you go. Happy birthday. Like, it's not a thing that you can give to someone like that. It's something, but you can show people how to access it and teach them that it comes from within you. It's from the heart. You've got to have your heart changed so that you can connect with the conscience. Because there's two worlds. There's the external world and the internal one. We're all born with a conscience. Now, children aren't born as sociopaths, but they can become sociopaths in this world that we're in if the world takes them. I can see how the Marxists want to remove that, because that's the real source of our strength. Because without a true understanding of those internal principles, you can't have a true, you can't maximize that courage that's within. Because you look at countries like North Korea and China, where they completely restrict Jesus. So why don't you want Jesus there? Love thy neighbor, love your enemies. How could you have a problem with that? Well, they have a problem with that because it empowers the human mind and spirit.
It makes us unconquerable, actually. It makes us able to feed into something that they can never contain. I often think of the quote of Mandela where he said, on Robben Island, they could take everything from me except one thing. They could even take his eyesight. They put him in a white quarry where he was losing his eye, and he loved to read. They put him in solitary confinement. But he said, they can't take from me my soul. That I will not give them. And that one line can really feed something in all of us to remind us what we have at the end of our lives. This is such a good discussion. But Nick, just back to somebody who's getting curious now, take me back to little Nick, how he began praying. I mean, what's a simple way for someone to start? What did you used to do? What do you say to your kids when they want to do a simple prayer? What is it?
I was taught 3 different prayers. One was about, well, I can't remember exactly one of them, but the other one was the Lord's Prayer. That my mother had memorized, and the other one was, I learnt the alcoholics prayer, because I spent a lot of time as a youngster, because I grew up with a single mother living in the high-rise commission flats, which is like, I don't know what you call it in New Zealand. It's called the commission. It's like the council flats. Yeah. So I grew up there. So it's a bit rough, but you learn, you learn things that you wouldn't learn if you weren't living there.
Did you have a father influence at all?
No, not too much. My grandfather was around, but he lived in the country, so it wasn't all the time.
Yeah.
But the
alcoholics
that's right.
Prayer.
So I learnt that one as well. That was at a very young age. But then I just started praying my own prayers with God.
Can you say that one? Can you say that one for people? This is
God.
Problems with drugs or alcohol, and they can't seem to get off. Yeah.
It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's actually beautifully inspired.
It's so beautiful. And the Lord's Prayer begins with, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your name is holy. You can look that up, but it just gives people a place to start. Mine is Psalm 23. And if you just look up Psalm 23, it's such a beautiful one, reminding us that no matter how dark it gets, actually there is always a divine source with us, Nick. This has been such a seminal part of our conversation, because when I met you, I thought there's something so different, and yet it's also very familiar to me, because growing up, many of us did have much more input than in this very secular world. We had it from our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. We had ideas that gave us something really strong to build an ethical foundation to our lives. And I think young ones today are really missing that. So I'm hoping this will inspire. But your story itself will inspire. We will get back to more of this later on, Nick. Your story goes back to, you put out a second video, and you said earlier 22 cops then showed up to intimidate you. 22. What did they do when they showed up?
They tried to arrest me, and I said, you can't arrest me for not letting, because they said I wasn't letting them in to the gym because I've got a great big high cyclone fence, and it's got not razor wire, but just like barbed wire around the very top bit, and I think even on the edges. But anyway, and that's always been there because I bought the property later, and it was just there. That's how it was. And it was almost like it was purpose built for what we were going to be dealing with, right? So
almost like
police,
someone had something set up for you to do, Nick.
yeah. So anyway, we only had about 5 or 6 people at the gym that day. Right, it was a Friday. The other day was a Wednesday, and I saw that they had police had blocked all 3 entry points into our street. There's three roads,
Wow.
and they blocked all 3 of them, and like checkpoints. And they had pulled over one of the kids that trained there. He was an 18-year-old boy, and I just ran out to help him and have it because I thought he's probably so scared of the police. So I went out there to help him so he wasn't by himself because he braved up the courage to come and train. And then this is what's happening to him, right? So I've gone out there. They let him go, and then I walked back to the gym. But the guys that were in there had closed that gate and locked it. So I was stuck on the side of the fence with all of the police. And then they're having this interaction, which made it a cooler video because it's not like me hiding behind the fence talking to them. I was actually on the same side as the police.
Wow.
And they're telling me to open the gate. I said, I don't have the keys. Can't let you in. And then I talked to one of the guys behind the fence. Said, have you got the keys there? And the guy, Ross, he goes, don't know anything about it. And I went, he's probably got the keys. I don't know. And,
Nick, I think we better cut to the video at this point. This sounds really entertaining, as most of your videos are. Let's have a look.
What down here too? Oh, they're down here too. Are they down the other one? They down there?
No, don't worry. Just
they're down there too.
If anyone gets a fine, I will show you.
He just said that they're down there too.
Good on. Anyway, if you get a fine, just say, no worries, thank you very much, and just accept it. I will deal with it for you. Don't worry. I know I've got all the templates at home. All right. No, I do. I've got them all. It's easy.
There's no gym. Go talk to the gentleman down there.
So obviously there's a lock on the door here.
Don't know anything about it. Don't know anything about it.
You were here when it was locked.
Don't know anything about it. Go talk to him.
The guy over there. He's like the key.
Don't know anything about it. There's no gym here.
We can wait, that's fine.
Yeah, good. Go talk to him. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, okay, it's a directive. It's not a law. It does not trump our human rights. It doesn't trump your... So you're saying... So let me get this straight. Are you saying that your directives trump our human rights?
I'm saying that there's a directive from the Victorian government
Yeah.
that prohibits any personal fitness, personal recreation facilities...
I'm not a person, I'm a man.
...from operating...
I'm a man, I'm not a person.
And the police believe that the gym is operating...
But you said a person, though. I'm not a person. I've told you that. A person is a corporate entity, a trustee in bankruptcy. Just look at the legal dictionary. That's what it is, though. So
we believe that there's a mixed martial arts facility operating at the moment, which is against the directive of the Victorian government.
well, I believe in good faith that you're mistaking. And the Department of Health and Human... What's the department? That's right, yeah. Okay. My understanding that's a private company and it's actually under the UN and your directives from the UN. It's not, and it's a directive. It's not a law. Okay?
It's a directive that can be enforced by me as an authorised officer and with the supporting police.
But it's in breach of the law. So effectively you're breaking the law.
Well, that's your interpretation. If you think that, you can fight the infringements in court later on. What I'm trying to do is...
Well, I don't accept any infringements from you. I'm not a person.
It'll still be issued.
Okay. Yeah. So
anybody on the property will be issued with an infringement.
So basically, what you're doing is you're terrorising people. Okay, and you're getting your jurisdiction, not from the Commonwealth, but you're getting your jurisdiction from the UN because you're in breach of. What you're doing is in direct opposition to Commonwealth law.
What you're doing is trying to save lives.
Yeah, but that's bull. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's your
opinion. But the government has issued state of emergency in Victoria, and as an authorised officer of the government, ask to enter the property and or give a directive to the police to enter the property.
You're not. Because
Anyone on the property at the moment.
if you go into my property, you will be breaking, and because I do not consent to you entering the property. Okay, there's the notice. There's the notice. There's all the case law precedents.
That's
Okay,
right.
your directives.
Yep.
They do not supersede this. They apply to persons and residents. I'm not a person or a resident
At the moment, they do.
in law. I'm not. They don't.
They
That's
do
not
at the
true.
moment. Yep.
That's not
And that's
true.
okay. So that
Well,
you
provide
can,
the evidence that they do. Can you please explain how they do?
you can dispute that because the government.
When they operate outside of those powers,
That's fine.
we do not have to. We can disregard them because you cannot just make up a law that doesn't have royal assent from the Queen or it's from another entity or another crown and enforce it as though it's a law. You don't have the power to do that. I know you believe it, but it's not true.
That's okay. So you can dispute that in court. So if you guys want to dispute infringements, they'll be handed out.
Well, I'd rather not go to court, but if we do go to court,
that's
okay, I've given you full notice
That's
that we have a no trespassing notice. We have case law precedents in there. We have police, government, sheriff, bailiff, process server, okay, council, private investigators, corporations, okay, and you're operating. So what company is it? It's the Department of Health and Human Services. So it's a corporation. So you're a representative. You're an agent for a corporation. So that means that you are
It's the government. It's not a corporation. It's the government.
Well, the government's a corporation too.
The government of Victoria has issued a state of emergency.
But it's a corporation as well.
Under which, under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, as
Corporate
an
entity.
authorised officer, I'm allowed entry to the property.
No, you're not.
Well,
I don't
what we
consent
did.
to you.
That's okay. That's fine. That you don't have to consent. But in not consenting, you're actually obstructing me as an authorised officer. Which means the police
No, I'm
can-
just standing. I'm just holding my position that you're breaking the law. And these officers who don't actually know these things because people that are above them don't teach them what the law actually says. They should be helping us from people like you that are stealing our rights using jurisdiction that's not even a relevant jurisdiction here.
Well, that's
The
nothing.
UN,
That's fine. Yeah, that's your
can't
opinion.
trump our rights. We have rights.
Yeah, that's your opinion.
Okay, we have
Fine.
human rights. Are you saying we don't have human rights?
No, I'm not saying that. But
But
right
you
at the
are,
moment,
because your actions say that we
right at
are.
the moment, what I'm saying is that the state of emergency means that I can enter the property and the police can issue infringements to anyone we believe.
Well, I can say this, that I wrote something on a piece of paper that says you can't. Okay, yeah, right? And there's also law that says you can't. There's also case law precedents that say you can't. There's also a constitution that says you can't. Okay? Are you disregarding all of those? You're disregarding the Constitution, is that right? And you're disregarding the
I'm acting
Constitution?
on the state of emergency of Victoria that's been declared.
Let
by the
me just get this
President
right.
of Victoria.
Are you? I'm happy for you
I'm
to
telling
enter the
you what I'm
premises.
operating on.
If you can tell me and give me full disclosure that you have the jurisdiction to override our rights contained in our Constitution, and that you have power outside of the parameters that are disclosed in our Constitution. If you can accept liability for that, for any breach of that, then go in there.
I'm telling you that on the top of
You don't have Ken's phone number?
It's
Ken?
the government has issued a state of emergency, which means that it's an authorised
Tell
officer.
Ken,
I'm allowed
call
to
it back,
gain
tell
entry
Ryan.
Tell Ryan. Property. Let me finish. I'll let you finish.
Because Ryan loves the
For
cream.
the purposes of upholding the directions that have been issued for COVID-19. If you don't choose not to do that, like I said, the result of that will be a potential PIN notice on you. And if there is a class operating there, anyone in there will be issued with infringement notices of $1,600.
But they're not legitimate, so we're not really worried about that.
That goes to court.
And it's all fear tactics. All you do is you just cause fear in people. That's all you do. That
what we're
is
trying to do
absolutely is what you're doing. It's fear. You're terrorizing
What
people.
we're trying to do is save lives.
Are you saying that your powers override our human rights?
What I'm saying is where I get
Can
my
you just
powers
answer
from.
just a yes or
I'm
no?
telling you where I get my powers from.
Do they override our human rights? Does the state of emergency override our human rights? Please
Telling you
confirm.
that at the moment, the Victorian government has issued a state of emergency which gives
So you
them
won't
the power
answer
to
me,
enter
will
this
you?
property.
You will not answer the question.
I'm telling
Does
you
it
where I've got the powers
override
from.
our human rights?
Doesn't matter. At the moment, I've got
It
the
does
powers
matter.
to-
I've asked you a
It doesn't.
direct. And that's the issue. Like I asked the police before. They're public servants. I asked them a
Are
direct
you-
question. They won't answer the
Okay.
question.
So let me ask you a direct question. Are you going
Well,
to let us into the property?
I've asked you, and you won't answer me.
That's
Okay.
an esoteric question, which if you want to take that to court, that's
It's not
completely
an esoteric
fine.
question.
And
It's
you
a
may
direct
well win the
question.
case. I don't know.
It's a direct question.
But
Okay. It's very
I'm the right
clear.
one. Are you going to let us into the property?
I'm not going to let you into the property unless you can provide some evidence that our Constitution is no longer valid and that you do have powers outside of the Constitution to enforce these orders or directives
I'm telling
against
you, I
against
have
our.
those powers.
Okay, but you need to provide some evidence of it. Where's the evidence?
I've got a direct
I don't know who you are.
And Lex went, okay, I can show you my card. I can show you my authorised office card.
I just want to know how you can. How I've asked you a direct question. Really, what I want you to.
Authorised office
Oh,
card.
that looks very nice.
Yep.
That looks very nice. I just want to know how you can you can override our human rights and how you can override our
Because
Constitution.
because the government of Victoria has decided at the moment, given the implications of COVID-19, that it's issued a state of emergency, which gives it the power to do exactly what we're doing now.
It doesn't. The power has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, from the Victorian government.
No, the Victorian government gets its power from somewhere.
The Victorian government has made a decision, and which has been backed up by the Commonwealth and the directions it's given, and has allowed the states to decide for
It's
their
been
own.
backed up by the Commonwealth, has it?
Absolutely.
Okay, you do know that Commonwealth's been dissolved in 1973.
Well, last I heard, they were still operating, but anyway.
It was dissolved in 1973.
Commonwealth
Look at the
Government of
Statute Law
Australia.
Revision Act 1973.
Okay.
They removed the words
Are you
Commonwealth.
going to let us into the
So you don't
property or
even
not?
know. You don't even know what the law is. You're just doing what
Yeah, I
you're
do.
told. Who's your higher up? Who's giving you the because I
Premier
gave
Victoria.
this gentleman here the other day. I gave him. Oh, good that you've got that recording because mine's just dead now. I gave him notice that anyone from DHS, if they were to come here, because obviously you claim to be government, so if you are, you've been noticed. Okay, that you'd be trespassing if you come to this property.
It's okay.
Okay, now you personally
You
will be.
believe that. You believe that. That's okay.
Well, no, because I have case laws. I believe what comes out of the High Court of Australia, which you should believe too.
Well, what I believe
You know,
is
this
the
is
state
a
of
treasonous
emergency that's
act
been issued
because
by-
you're using powers
Okay, well, I'll
that come
take
from
that
a foreign crown,
Yeah.
okay, or from a foreign power that are in direct opposition to our actual power. Because you don't have you don't get powers to override our rights.
I'm not
You
sure.
do not get powers to override our rights in a state of emergency. You
Yeah, we
don't.
do. We
No,
do,
I know you
actually.
believe you do, but you don't. And you
Okay,
can't tell me
like
where
I
you
said,
get it. You just say from the government.
I'm
Is that the
happy-
corporate government or is that the dual government? Because there
I'm-
is a corporation called government and then there's an actual government. There's two, and they do exist.
I'm happy for you to dispute that at court. Go for it. That's
I do not
give
give you consent to go into my property.
Okay.
I do not give you any consent.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you one more time. I do not give you consent to go into my property.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to direct the police that basically, because you're obstructing me to be able to enter the property, that's obstructing the authorised officer in the role of my duties.
Well, you
under
claim
the
that, but I've
government.
just told you I don't consent.
Okay, that's okay. That's fine. So I think this is-
If you had the actual power, okay, you would probably just do it. I would assume, but you don't have the power.
Well,
You want me to allow you in? I'm not going to allow you in. I do not consent to you coming into my
our
property.
preference would absolutely
What's your reason for obstructing an authorised officer in the execution of his duties?
Because I don't believe that he's acting honourably. I don't believe he's acting according to the law. Because what he's doing is in violation of our rights, and I have an obligation to defend my rights, and you guys do too. You've made an oath to the proper crown, and then you're enforcing rules that come from a different one. I know you don't know that. That's what's really happening here. Okay, and you're assisting somebody and he probably doesn't even. I don't know what he knows. Okay, but I'm aware that you guys probably don't know that we do have certain rights. You can't, if someone's sick, really sick, they go and quarantine themselves. We already have a quarantine act, and then there's another act that they've created that's in direct opposition to that. You can't have conflicting legislation and it both be valid. Okay, now when the government says, "Oh, we're going to do this. This is the law," I go and check because I don't trust the government. Now, there's a maxim of law: you shall be known by your acts and action. If the government's been known to be dishonest in the past, and they're always dishonest, they always say we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they don't deliver. I don't trust them. So what I do is I check what the law actually says, and I'm not brilliant at all. I'm not a genius at all. But I just do some study because I like to know whether what they're doing is correct, and it's not a lot of the time. And in this case, it's not as well. Okay.
You've committed the offence of hindering an authorised officer in the execution of their duties. Verify you to state your name and address for me, please.
I don't have to. I've told him I don't consent to him coming onto this property.
Yep, but you've also committed that offence. Okay. So therefore, you are
How is it offence to say I do not consent to
Okay,
him
so will you unlock
coming
the
onto
gate?
my property?
Will you unlock the gate?
Oh, I don't have the key for that gate. I don't know who's got the key. Maybe
With the same person who locked it 5 minutes before you lock it.
who was that?
I don't know.
No, because it was the lock was on there. Did you just lock it?
I don't know anything about it.
Because they might have locked it. I don't have the key here, so I.
I don't know anything about it.
So, like I said, you committed the offence of obstructing the authorised officer. Like I said, you now require to state name.
I don't have to say I haven't committed a crime. I haven't done anything. What's it on? What law have I broken? All I've said is I don't consent to you coming here and I had a discussion with you. That's not a crime to have a discussion with you about the law.
But it is.
Because in good faith, Section 24F of the Crimes Act states, I can, in good faith, seek to change the council's directions, policies of any government entity, whether from this country or another. And I can also seek to change. Look it up. I can do that. And if I do that in good faith, I'm allowed to do that. And you're going to tell me I have to give you my name. No, in good faith, I'm allowed to question your jurisdiction. I have every right to do that. Okay, don't tell me that I don't. I haven't committed an offence. No, I haven't. How have I committed an offence? What have I done that is offensive to him? What was the offence?
Like I said, you have disobeyed a lawful direction from an authorised officer. You have hindered him in his duties.
He asked me a question, and I said, I do not give you consent.
I'm now saying I want to enter the property.
Well, I'm saying I don't want you to enter the property.
So
that's not a crime for me to say that.
Stopping me from entering the property?
No, I've told you I don't give consent.
No, but I'm saying as an authorised officer, I'm entitled to enter the property.
I don't believe that's true.
No, that's okay. But I'm telling you, as an authorised officer, I intend to enter the property. Are you going to let me onto the property?
I do not consent to you entering the property. I do not consent. I've told you that 3 times.
Yep.
You already know that.
That's
you don't need to ask me
So,
again. We have that on the record. I do not consent. I believe what you're doing is unlawful. It's invalid.
That's great.
And
That's
I believe
opinion.
that you're actually committing an offence against the Crown.
That's your
And so are all of these people. And they don't even know. They haven't got full disclosure on that they are.
What's going to happen is you're going to receive an infringement notice in relation to.
I don't accept it. Just so you know, I don't accept
on the back of that infringement notice, when you do receive it, will be instructions to have the matter heard at court. If you wish to have the matter heard at court, fill that in, and
I think I'll just send it back to you immediately.
Do whatever you want to do.
Because I won't accept
that is the option.
That's it.
That's the option too. It's deemed
Because
as once
acceptance is by delivery. So when you send something, if I return it to you in 72 hours, that means I haven't accepted it.
Like I said, and what's going to happen is we're going to come back again at some point.
Well, that's a threat with menace, isn't it?
With the exact same
That's
thing.
a threat with menace
because
you're harassing me.
Direct.
It's a
So if
threat
we
with
receive
menace.
another 000 call to say that there's a possible COVID breach here,
You need to learn what the law is.
we will come back with an authorised officer again, and we'll ask you to say consent.
Yep.
Okay? Just letting you know.
You guys need to learn what the law is.
I'm just letting you know.
I know you're in a hard place. I know you are. And I'm not like someone that's against police. I'm against people taking our rights, okay? And I'm not against police. But what you're doing now, I'm going to say this isn't right.
Okay.
This is not right, okay? And you don't have legitimate powers to do this.
Like I said,
I know you believe you do because
we
someone's
have
told
further
you.
calls to come back here because of the fact that there's, I believe, COVID breach.
I know you want to
And then we'll
harass
come
the
back.
people that are coming in. You want to make it. You want to make a big.
We want them to obey the state of
Sure.
emergency directions that have been issued for people's safety. For the
That's I know
for the
that's
safety
the
and the
media.
public
That's
well-being.
that's what they're pushing.
Well,
I understand you've got to push some lie.
That's
They
your
told us September 11 was all these people that but that wasn't true. That was a load of bullshit.
This is nothing
And
to do
this
with
is more.
September
This is
11.
but it's the same bullshit. It's the media telling us a heap of crap so that the government can take more power. And because the people are ignorant, not many people stand up. Because the people are ignorant, this is what ends up happening. They take powers that they don't have. I tell you, you don't have your rights unless you know them. I know some of my rights. Because I know some of my rights, I'm not going to relinquish them because some bloke turns up and says, I have power from the government. That's not a legitimate... Now, if you do have legitimate power, okay, do what you're going to do against my will, okay?
Yep.
Because you know you'll win in court. But I've told you I do not consent. I do not consent to these proceedings, okay? I'm not going to give you my name
who
because
has-
it's mine.
who
It
has the
belongs to
code
me.
or
It's
key
my
to the
property.
gate?
I don't have to give it to you. My name is my
So
property.
you
You're not
guys,
gonna,
so you guys
you know,
don't
you're not
know?
going to create a contract
how are you
with
gonna
me.
get
I'm not
out?
giving a contract with you. I don't have to.
It's not a problem. You'll receive a ticket in here.
Right, so you're spending the
Thank you for
night
your
here?
time.
Don't answer any questions.
He's exercising his right to...
Silence. Right to silence. Human rights. Thank you.
Bye-bye, officers. There is people selling drugs. There is people that have
Rapists, murderers,
there's rapists,
pedophiles.
There's a lot of pedophiles in the government too, and I can get you some information on those guys, possibly in Department of whatever department you come from. So maybe go and get the pedophiles in the government, and when you go and do that, I'll be supporting 100%.
I mean, you're nothing if not a real character, Nick Patterson. You've got a lot of courage. If only the whole world had practiced this level of courage early on in these bullying lockdowns, these jab coercions, this would all have stopped overnight. The politicians would not have dared to go on. Were you nervous? Were you nervous when you were doing all of that?
Yeah, of course there's nerves. You're gonna have nerves and that you're gonna be dealing with. But I learned, my coach actually taught me how to deal with fear. My coach Ed, he would say, don't focus on the things you don't have control over, because that's what enables fear to get into your mind, and doubt. And what does fear and doubt do to your vessel? It goes to war with your courage, and it goes to war with your confidence and your faith. Okay, that's what doubt and fear do. So think of it like you want to be filled with all the good stuff, but then you put some fear in there, then your faith goes down, because it's now you've got an acid and a base situation with, and you lose your inner peace. So I've learned to deal with that. So when there's something would be some sort of stimulus that causes you to be scared or afraid, I just stop thinking about that and focus on the things I've got control over. So I'm speaking to these police officers and this authorized officer, a health officer. Well, I can keep focusing on what I have to say to him and just keep focusing on the task at hand, rather than thinking about what if they do this to me or that to me. I don't know what they're going to do, so I don't think about it, because it's only going to bring doubts and fears. So that's one thing that you can apply that works 100% of the time. And I had this discussion with them, and I'm literally saying, they're telling me that they're going to arrest me, and I'm saying, you can't arrest me for saying I don't consent to you entering the property. They're like, well, let us in. I said, I can't let you in because I don't have the keys. Someone else has locked it. And they go, well, you're hindering an authorized officer. I said, how am I hindering an authorized officer? Okay, if you have the authority to go in there, you're going to ram your way in regardless of whether I let you in or not. Okay, and I can't stop you. I can say that I don't consent. And then I said to them, and given that you're not, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of, given that you're not entering the property, means you need my consent. And I knew that they needed consent because I'd read through the act that they were trying to enforce, and they were enforcing illegally.
This is where your brilliance comes in too, because you'd read through the act. I mean, that was really good. And you're not trained in the law, are you? You had just used your common sense. Is that right?
Yeah. And I've got some friends that are really good with their legal research, and they help me.
Good.
And they'll point things out to me. And then what I'm good at doing is I'll look at these things, different sections, and then I'll try to work out how do I use that in a situation with it, when you think of all the different variables that will come in to it and how it could be used. And I think this is how I would defend my position if I had this argument. And that's what I'll do. But I think the strategic element it comes from my fighting background. Maybe that's just the way I'm inclined, because I'd think about what I would do in different situations when I fought professionally. And I did a lot of that. That was what I did, and I trained fighters for years. So it was always thinking strategically how to deal with situations that are quite intense and fear provoking, and how to overcome all of that.
Oh, we're going to divert then. I want to find out more about the fighter's mind. So again, you'd feel a lot of nerves when you're going into that ring. But are you saying prior to the fight itself, you've really watched what this opponent might be like? You've worked out where his weak points are. You're strategic in your approach to every fight. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah. So whatever you can get, like let's say you've got to, like, especially when you're more experienced. Like towards the end of my career, I was fighting people that had a lot more experience. I had lots of footage I could see online of them fighting. So you look at all the things that they can do, then you would build up your game plan for that particular fighter, and then you would just focus on what you're going to do, rather than what if they do this, what if that. Don't even think about that now. you've trained for it, and you have to let go of those things that are going to bring in those doors that let the enemy in. You don't want the enemy in. You've got to control your mind. It's putting on the armor of God. You got to protect this and your heart and all of those things from the spiritual stuff that wants to get into you, because we're meant to be the temple of the Holy Spirit. But the enemy wants to take control of you and wants to get inside of you and have a place there. So you just don't let that in.
So
Because
what you say you've got 5 or 6 steps with fighter A, and then he brings up a 7th step that you've never noticed in any fight. You haven't got any plan for that. At that point, you just go back on your wit, on your experience, on your training.
that's where, yeah, you've just got to be able to deal with that. Okay, this is happening. Okay, what do I do now? And you've got to think about it, but just focus on what can I do now? What can I do now? Not, oh no, he's got me. I'm going to get hurt here. No, don't focus on that.
Brilliant.
Focus on what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? But you've got to have wisdom too, because like if your arm's getting broken, it's about to break, you go, I'm going to have to tap. That's the right thing to do. And I learned that from harsh experience when I actually had a fight over in Boston with this New York champion guy, and he was a weight class heavier, and I still took the fight. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. And I ended up getting my arm broken because I wouldn't tap. So I went, okay, maybe next time I will have a bit more wisdom. But that's just part of the experience, isn't it?
Would you say to mothers of sons who've got a lot of aggression, they don't know where to put it, that MMA and or boxing is really good for those boys, that they're needing something to express that manly, beautiful energy that this society needs?
It's probably the only place where in the Western culture where that masculine sort of energy is promoted and is still valued. It's because everything else, it's just taken out of it. The corporate world, that doesn't exist. They don't want you to be men. In the political world, they don't want men to be men. They want you to be just weak and soft. And we're not that way. That's not how we're made to be. Now, some men might be that way, and that's because they are, but most aren't. Just like some women can be, strong. And I've actually trained a couple of women that were strong, like the average bloke. And they were as strong as the average bloke. And you go, most women aren't strong like that, but there are some. But I would also say, if you are going to put your children into that sort of training, or your teenagers, just make sure the gym is run by the right kind of people, because there is that element of there is that criminal element that you do also see in that gym culture, and I wouldn't want to have my children training with people that are going to lead them down the wrong path in life.
So what qualities would you be looking out for if you were taking your boys along, say now, not knowing about it?
Yeah, so just moral people. Where my boys do jiu-jitsu twice a week, and they do boxing twice a week at another gym. So the jiu-jitsu coach is one of the guys that used to coach at my gym when I had that. He's got good Christian values. And the boxing gym also is run by people that have, again, good Christian values. That's what I want them to nourish. I want to put them somewhere where they're building themselves up in that powerful way to be able to fight and defend. But I want it to be balanced and focused with those right principles of morals, justice, fairness. You don't just go and hit people. You don't be an aggressor. You don't be a bully. But what you do with that skill is, if you see someone bullying someone, you stick up for that person who can't fight for themselves or lacks the power to be able to defend themselves. That's what you want to have that skill for, to defend others. And they learn that when they're in that kind of an environment. But if they're in an environment where it's like a gym where it's run by the wrong people, there's a good chance that they will be, basically manipulated or taught to be an aggressive person, and which is like that old Karate Kid movie, and there's the Cobra Kai guys, and they're like really aggressive, and then there's you want them to use that power that they have for good and not for evil. simply put.
Or for the heart and not for the ego. It's
Yes.
I really want, I'm going to send you some interviews I've done with a dear friend of mine, and now a dear friend in these 4 years, Steve Oliver, who runs the Oliver Gyms in New Zealand. And I really feel you two should link up. What is the name of your gym franchise, or do you still run a chain of gyms?
I don't have one anymore. No,
Right.
I closed it down. It was basically I had the police because I had the stance that I had and I was affecting the community in a positive way. I ended up having police just park their cars at the front of my gym for a long time. I was struggling to you understand my gym was more of a ministry. I had 3 homeless people living upstairs in my gym.
Oh,
And
Nick.
yeah, and we had a whole bunch of drug addicts who, and I think I have an understanding. I've never been a drug addict or at all ever, but growing up with my mother in the Alcoholics Anonymous program and going to those really boring meetings as a child, but because she couldn't leave me with dad because there was no dad there, I would have to go. And I knew it was good for her anyway, so I never complained too much. But when I see people that have addiction problems, I kind of know how to help them a lot of the time. Not always, but we were doing a lot of work with people that had addiction problems, and a lot of them didn't even have the money to train. But I'd just let them train, and I'd give them work to do at the gym. You can help me run my class. You can help me do this, and it was a good way for them to get a bit of confidence back and just feel valued. So they have value.
Yes.
So that was what I was doing. When I was charged by the police, I was prosecuted 4 times, 4 separate prosecutions from the police. I ended up winning all 4 of them, but they were drawn out, dragged out. It was very tough for me. The police took away my ability to work with children because I was allegedly violent and I'd bashed up police according to them, even though the judge ended up ruling and saying that that the police committed unjustified violence against us and that our reaction was justified. But because of what the police did in saying that they were able to take away my ability to work with kids, so that was like 30% of my business. Then I had my shoulder. My shoulder was also broken in that one interaction, and it wasn't just broken; it was dislocated, and I had major damage. I couldn't even hold pads and do private coaching with people to subsidise what I'd lost with the children's program. So in the end, I ended up making that decision to close the business, and that's I think I'd done what I needed to do with that gym. We had invoked every idea that we wanted to invoke against the false narrative, courage, all the rest of it. Now it's time to close it down and start something new. And that's sort of where I'm at now. But yeah, I didn't have the choice to really keep it open anymore.
Wow. And we're going to unpick those storylines. That is absolutely heartbreaking. You mentioned that the police would park outside the front of the gym in these lockdowns. Was that to intimidate people from coming in, obviously?
Well, if people see a police car at the front and they know that it's been all over the mainstream media, all the stuff that's been happening at my gym, people are driving to the gym and they just keep driving. And they'd send me a message saying, I saw the police there and sorry, mate, I couldn't make it. And it's sad because I get it. It's just people are worn out. Maybe and we work a lot in Australia. We work a lot. A lot of people that in Cranbourne, they're probably working 50 hours a week because they're doing overtime or they've got an extra job, and it's hard work. To do that and then have that fight with the police and potentially get arrested or an argument. It's just, I get why they didn't want to come in.
Nick, that
And
must have been really heartbreaking to you. That's like a long, slow heartbreak. That's extremely vicious, actually. It's an extremely vicious thing to do that the police did. That's not about good community policing, caring about the community. That is just covert long-term bullying and keeping it going for a long time to slowly break your heart. Did it?
Well, it gets worse because they were coming to my house in the middle of the night. They came 5 times to my home at between 10 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. They didn't come with any actual police business. They were coming just to check in on me,
Oh,
right? Just to check in on me. And one time so there was two police that came 2 nights in a row, and they said, "Look, we don't want to be here, but we've been told we have to." And I said, "All right." And I had a good conversation with them, and we actually ended up we agreed in the end. We found a common ground, and they didn't bash on the door. They were all right, and I could tell they didn't want to be there. If they had more morals, they wouldn't have gone. They would have said, "I'm not doing this."
yes,
But
exactly. If they had a moral code, they would have said to their superiors,
yeah,
this is not what I joined the police for.
exactly. But anyway, so I wasn't angry with them. But then there was another time that there was a guy came to my house, and it was probably about midnight, and he was really, really just rude, and speaking down to me. And I said, "Mate, you don't come to my house at this time." And he said, he's saying things to the effect of, "Oh, yes, we do. We come whenever we want. We're the police." Really arrogant. And then we ended up having a big argument out in the street. And then he left. And then we had another time that there was police. They came to my house. This was the day before that first incident. That wasn't the first incident, but the one we first watched, where I went to that rally. It was the day before, but it was 12:37 at night, and I actually filmed it. And I said to them, I said, if they wanted to give me a notice not to go to the rally, and I said, well, I'm not going to accept that. And they said, well, we'll just leave it here. I said, no, you're not going to leave it here. I said, if you want to give me a notice, you come at a reasonable hour, and I'm happy to take it off you. But you don't come to my house at 12:37 at night. The only reason you're coming here at this time is to intimidate my family, because you can't intimidate me. So you're gonna intimidate my family by turning up to my house for this. I think that was the fourth time. In the middle of the night, 12:37 at night. That's not an acceptable time to turn up to. They could have come at any time during the day.
It's
But
not
they
even
came.
professional. It's not even humane. And what kind of weakling men, I'm sorry, but only weakest of weak bully men would
Yeah.
want to hurt a wife and children? Those are not the people we need in our police. Those are weak characters. They're not ethical characters.
Well, it's made me look very differently at the police force. Like, I don't look at it as a benevolent, organization, but I look at it as a benevolent one. That it's actually its primary function is to control, because I saw it in real time, and I could see why people maybe don't believe me or agree with me with my position, but I didn't agree with that position until I experienced it for myself, and I've seen how the police do truly operate in a way that is completely devoid of reasonable morals and decency. It's completely devoid of that, and it's literally just the government tells us. They think they work for the government, these police, and they don't work for the government. Over here, they're independent office holders. And there's case law for this in this country. Actually, I ran a rally to the police headquarters. This is a funny one. This is after I got released from jail for being put in jail falsely. And I was also given bail conditions, just so everyone who watched knows, my bail condition, I wasn't charged with incitement. I think they forgot to charge me with that, because that's what the police in Victoria were falsely charging people with who had an online platform, so that they could justify a full gag order on the bail conditions. But they gave me the gag order as well. My bail conditions for allegedly assaulting police was I couldn't speak about the police, the government, state or federal, the law, state or federal, the COVID pandemic, or the chief health officer's directions on any public forum, social media platform, website, anyone else's website. So it was a full gag order. I couldn't speak or criticize anything government to do with the pandemic. And I wasn't, and those bail conditions have no relationship to the alleged offences that didn't even happen anyway, right? So it was
Nick, what
completely
a
mad.
compliment to you. You must have been regarded as such a powerful force for good that their darkness had to triple, quadruple, quintuple down on top of you, because you're one man holding up the light of truth was so threatening to them. To have those sorts of
Yeah.
bail conditions.
It definitely makes
Crazy.
you realise, for them to put in that much infrastructure into silencing, just me, I'm just this one guy, and put in that much effort, I go, oh, they must be scared of something. And then when you start to understand how much power we really have, because people think, what can you do? You can't beat them. They have too much power. Well, no, actually, we have the most power. It's just that you might get smashed in the head with something for exercising your power. And you have to be able to overcome that potential fear that you have of being hurt. You might lose something physical, or you might cop a bit of abuse, or you might have your face put on on the mainstream media news, and a beat up pieces made about you in the newspaper. But that doesn't stop you from speaking the truth. They might kick you off social media platforms, but you can still get on other people's social media platforms and speak the truth. But the reason I brought this up
You
was
might
because
have a paid group of trolls tell lies about you nonstop for 2 months,
yes,
knowing that's
yes.
the government doing that. And by the way, just before you continue on your view about police, I can back you up, Nick. I'm a 64-year-old grandmother, and I was in an airport to film some people, just to shoot it on high quality, high definition footage, because we were going to do a little doco, all voluntary work, not commercial. And I was accosted for holding a camera. And this woman from, we think, Ukraine, she called the police. Within 3 seconds, he had assaulted me. And I've had broken shoulders for coming up for 2 years. They're just starting to come right. But the price of that, within 3 seconds, this cop had accosted a 64-year-old grandmother, Nick. And so I firsthand realized, the cops, some of them, this Constable Postlethwaite, is a thug for a criminal cabal at the helm of our government, willing to sanction that. They hid the footage. They did all sorts of things that show their terrible guilt, really. But so many of us have gone through physical and emotional torture simply for standing up for the truth. And I've lost all faith in our New Zealand police now, Nick. I won't even ring them if something goes wrong.
I'm exactly the same. I don't have any trust or any faith in the police at all. But you know what's the positive or the silver lining is to that? So think of it like fight training. You're training to be a fighter, or you go to the gym. You don't get strong without having resistance. You've got to go through the resistance, right? So this is emotional resistance, spiritual resistance, mental resistance, all of that. It actually makes us stronger, and it builds up our character, and it makes us mighty, and it gives us experience and knowledge of how things really operate. But yeah, where were we? We were talking about the.
So we were talking about all of the charges you went through. Talk about resistance.
Yep, I remember. So I ran a rally. This wasn't during a lockdown either, because I couldn't do that because I was on bail at this time. But I ran a rally to the police headquarters, and there was heaps of people there. It was fantastic, and I gave them a notice which informed them that they were acting under dictation, and I had the definition there, and that police. And it had section 51 of their own act, that section in there, which says that they're a constable at common law, right? And then I put in the definition from the LexisNexis Legal Dictionary of constable common law, which has all the references for our Australian legislation and all our case law. And then I put the case, a really relevant case about a constable they have no obligation, although they cannot enforce directions from government. They can only enforce the law. The only way they can be directed to arrest somebody is if they've been given a warrant, but that's because there's evidence in the form of like an affidavit or a statutory declaration which justifies that. So there's some evidence to establish the grounds. But I just want to inform them that you guys are acting under dictation when you're enforcing these directions. Our legal system doesn't have any provision for this. Well, the next day, Instagram and Facebook both jointly, I got this message saying, you have been permanently disabled. You cannot appeal this decision. So it wasn't like a warning or a 3-month, 6-month ban. It was just permanent. That was it. You're done.
So you're still not on Instagram or Facebook?
I've got back on under an alias of a different name, and I had to use it even a different browser. and a different computer to do it, and I am back on. But it's just crazy, isn't it?
How do you feel
That-
when you see Mark Zuckerberg as he senses the shift that's happening in the world and so many people awake now to what a horrific censoring platform Facebook is? I can't bear Facebook. How
well,
do you feel when you see him try to roll it back? Oh, maybe we went a bit far, or maybe we weren't quite right. Like me, please like me still. I can't stand Mark Zuckerberg.
I look at it and I kind of feel sorry for the guy. I think, you completely got it wrong. Like I know that I've got the rewards above.
Yeah,
I know I've got a God that loves me and takes care of me and will. And he doesn't have any of that. You've just got the physical stuff here.
yeah,
That's going to die. That's going to die with you, mate. My inheritance is the real thing. I'm going to go to the real world one day. This isn't the real world. This is the fake one, the matrix that we're in. So he's missing out, and he's made that choice, and he might be happy with it. I reckon he's probably got some regrets in there, thinking, he sold his soul to have all this stuff and all this power, and he's lost his all the good inner stuff, the
yeah.
conscience, because who could do that? Like, why would you go against the truth? That's the
Well,
foundation of everything.
and isn't that the message for Dan Andrews? Doesn't matter how many statues you build to yourself, Dan Andrews. Nobody respects what you did. Same with Jacinda Ardern. She can be all the dames she likes. She's just had a damehood awarded, Nick. But it doesn't mean the people of New Zealand like or respect her or will remember her with anything but great regret and often great anger. So it's an interesting thing. You can grab all the rewards of the world, but they melt in your hands, really, don't they?
Yeah, because they're not real. They're not lasting.
Yeah,
You know what is lasting? Love.
yeah,
What else is love? Courage, inspiration, the light of God that's within you, righteousness, goodness, faith, hope, all of those really powerful things. And that's what we're going to be clothed with one day in that spiritual world. But, in this physical one, they can have all their fancy stuff because I don't value it. I don't want any of that stuff. It'd be nice to be able to have a bit of money to do some things, but not at the expense of all the spiritual things and those spiritual principles that actually are where the true value lies.
that's beautiful. I think you're lighting up so much that my light's just gone out. I don't need it anymore. So we'll keep going anyway with my light. My light's just gone. But Nick, I want to go back to where we began this interview. It's just extraordinary to watch a man of, yes, great faith, great calm, great dignity. You have such dignity as a human being, discussing with this policeman who's trying to catch you out. Take us now to that day. After all these horror experiences, you decided to turn up that day and you were with friends. Take us to that story.
Yeah, it was a rally that was organised by a woman named Autumn Baker, a beautiful woman. She's no longer with us anymore, but she organised this rally, but then she cancelled it, I think, the day before because she knew there was going to be a massive police presence. And because the police had been so volatile and violent, she didn't want people to get hurt. So she cancelled the event. And I with a group of our friends, we were going to go because we had a group called the Peacemakers, and it was based off the Bible verse, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they should be called the children of God." Um, and we wanted to go and make sure that the police weren't violent towards people, and we were going to talk to the police and try to, make sure that we could. Because people get angry and fire up, and sometimes you just got to talk to the people that are protesting and say, "Just relax, take it easy. They're going to get volatile. Don't give them any excuse to escalate the situation." So we went down for that purpose, and this little police officer, as I get there, his name was I think it was Senior Constable Cone. He walks up to me, he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Oh, I don't talk to police." And he said, "Well, you will talk to me." And I just went, "DPP versus Hamilton. I'm under no obligation to speak to the police unless I'm under arrest." And he's like, well, I believe you're outside of your 5Ks. Or I think he said something about the mask. I said, "I got an exemption." He was shot to me. No, don't have to. I kept walking, and then he grabbed me, that was the first time that he actually assaulted me because he's not allowed to do that. He has to have grounds before he can grab you. He didn't have any grounds. reasonable grounds, but he was trying to find reasonable grounds, right? So then he goes, well, I believe you're outside of your 5Ks. I'm like, well, based on what? Where's the evidence for that to establish your belief? Where's the facts? And he didn't have any facts. So then I quoted George versus Rocket. And it's interesting because when you're in a state of fear, you can't recall things. But when you're totally focused on the task, it's amazing how able you are in your mind to be able to recall things. And actually, that what you would call like anxiety and all of those things that heightens your awareness. You can actually be a positive. You can use that for your good if you don't let the fear control it, right? So I just quoted for him George versus Rocket as one of the paragraphs. I think it was like paragraph 8. Or they have, they put points on the cases, and it was point 8. And I said, when a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, including suspicion and belief. You said belief, because you're saying he believes that I'm outside of my 5Ks. It requires the existence of facts, which is sufficient to induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. I'm a reasonable person. Where's the facts you're relying upon to establish your belief that I'm committing the offence? And he couldn't give me any. And that's when I knew I've got this guy. I've got him. And then he started to change his demeanor. So he went from being really quite arrogant and talking to me like, well, you're going to talk to us and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, to saying to me, well, will you give me something? And I said, no, I'm
Yes.
not going to give you something. I don't like you. I don't trust you. I think what you're doing is a vile action against the people. And then he didn't know what to do. And he's looking around for help. And because he had started this, and all of his mates were around him. In the end, there was probably 100 plus police around us. And then, I think that would have really diminished him. Because it's like he's picked a fight that he thought he could win, but the intimidation factor had no effect. And that was what he was relying upon. When you have 100 plus police around somebody, circling around them while you talk to them, and you're the police officer, it's not even about what you say. It's about it's like, look at us. We're the biggest gang here. But when you know your rights and you understand the principles well and you're confident, that one officer who had all of his mates around him went to nothing. He just went to water. And then he had to tag team his the inspector to help him out, and then they let us go. And then when they let us go, we tried to go, and the tactical police, who are like they're like a squad that's designed to like a SWAT team. They're not real police. They're like something else. They're like a tactical group that's used by the government to get things done. It's like that. It's that deep state element of the police. We don't know what they do. It's all secret. And they
Yeah.
were there, and I'd never seen these guys before in my life. I didn't know there were police like that until I saw them all the time at these rallies.
Do
And
you
they
know,
were
Nick, my father was in Germany prior to World War II, and they refused to stand up. They went to a Hitler rally and they refused to stand up. And they were surrounded, when Hitler came in, they were surrounded by people called the brown shirts, and they were Hitler's thugs. And the brown shirts just beat people up if you didn't do exactly what Hitler wanted. And so these young Kiwi boys just stood their ground and said, no, we're Kiwis. We're not going to stand up for your leader. And we don't approve of what he did, which is really gutsy. But it sounds like they're like brown shirts in Hitler's Germany, just the thugs to enforce and to intimidate those who will be intimidated.
Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the police that was in that tactical group, because they identified me later, like partway through, as we were trying to walk back to our cars, but they weren't letting us go directly there. They were sort of cutting us off, blocking our way. It was very obvious what they were doing. They were trying to escalate a situation and pushing us around and yelling at us. We didn't, because our guys were some of them were fighters, and they had discipline. They knew to just stay calm, and they understood what was happening. They didn't react, and eventually, because we still didn't react and we were getting very close to our cars, about 30 to 40 of them ran across the road and just started bashing up my mate, which then obviously that caused 5 of us, my mate, but then another 5 of us to run in and just start fighting back to stop them hurting our mate. Knowing that we're going to win this fight that these police have started, it was just that we have to stand up for our mate who's done nothing wrong. He just was trying to walk, and they just started punching him.
And when I saw that in the video, what struck me, Nick, it's the same playbook as going to you late at night, trying to get your wife and your children upset to hurt you. They knew that they couldn't get you riled up, but that you were such a loyal, brave soldier, warrior man, that you would, of course, stick up for one of your mates who's being hurt. And so that was a way to pull you in. Very cool. Very cruel.
We found out actually on the police briefing that they had for the rally day, because they had their own briefing for that day, it actually said something to that effect in there about me, that if I believed that that someone was being unfairly treated, that we would react and use force if needs be. Like, it was something to that effect was already in their briefing. So they knew that if we do something that's unlawful and we hurt someone, they will react and get involved. And
so
they would try.
They are using the decency of real men against real men. I mean, these people are the lowest of the low. Just divert off for a second. What would you say if you met one of them in years to come? I don't know, in a bar, and he says, you know, I'm drinking because I spent my youth in the police and we did terrible things under Dan Andrews, and it's haunted me, and I can't live with myself. I'm haunted by these memories of what we did to beat up people and hurt people. And you were there, Nick, and you could say, yeah, I was one of the ones you hurt. What would you say to him now? What would you say to him in that situation?
I'd probably ask them why they did it. What made you do it? And then I would see that there's penitence in them, because they're racked with guilt, because guilt's a good thing. It's when people don't feel guilt for the things they do, that's when they've gone beyond past feeling. They call past feeling. They don't even feel it anymore.
That's Dern, and that's Dan Andrews. That's it. Yeah.
Complete sociopaths. Like, there's just nothing. There's no empathy in there. There's no sorrow in there. It's all about them. You know, I often say these are people who'd eat their own children. You know,
absolutely. No guilt, no compassion, nothing. Yeah.
You know.
So that's really interesting. So let's go back to that. So you go over to rescue your mate, and we'll watch this in the clip in a minute. And then what happens, Nick? It's very painful to watch.
Well, then they end up, you know, getting the capsicum spray out. I got a whole bunch of police. I threw some punches and I hit some police. But then they broke my shoulder. They didn't break anyone else's shoulder. They just broke my shoulder. They ripped it right out of its socket.
And I think we need to go into that a bit more, because when I met you, you described it. He actually came over and he brought it right forward, didn't he? It was such an intentional move by that policeman.
Yeah, for anyone that understands MMA or wrestling or even jiu-jitsu, they used what's called a whizzer. I've got footage of it where they use like this whizzer. It's like an overhook. You got your arm over their arm and you're putting pressure on the shoulder. And that's what happened. And then they put me in jail for a month.
But wait a minute, let's go back to that. You knew it was broken. You knew that he had severely injured you. Tell me what you did.
I was on the ground.
Yeah,
I was on the ground. I was in a lot of pain, but I didn't want them to see my pain. But I just said, look, you've busted my shoulder. You can't handcuff me because I can't use my arm. Look, and one of the police officers who was right there at the time, he said, oh, yeah, okay, we're going to get you an ambulance. He obviously had some decency, so they called an ambulance. But I didn't want them to see me in a lot of pain, so I was putting on this front that I'm all right. Yeah, no, my shoulder's busted. You know, I'm all right though. You know, I was putting on this, and I was on the phone because I was on the ground. They were handcuffing everybody else, but I'm just on the ground with my busted shoulder. I'm sort of in a lunge position on one knee and one foot, and I'm ringing. I think I rang my wife and I said, "Oh, my shoulder's just gotten busted. We've just had a scrap with the police. They just ran across the road and started bashing up Jay, and she was in the city at the time as well. And then I think one other guy Leszek got on the phone and rang me as well because he had seen the police coming at us. He's a Polish guy that runs a group called the Australian Solidarity Movement. Beautiful bloke as well, but I just said, look, I've been injured. And it's good. I've just got to deal with this situation right now. But I wanted them to see that I wanted to put on this brave face while I'm on the phone that I'm okay, because I don't want them to have the satisfaction of knowing we got you, because that's how they think. They think at that they've got a very low level of consciousness to enjoy that, to enjoy being someone that just goes and gets. It's like a pack of dogs.
It is.
You got your dogs, your attack dogs, and you go get them. Go get them, boys, and you let the dogs off the lead. That's basically what it was like. But these are human beings who are acting like dogs.
Do they not realize these people must have no thought that at the end of their lives, I believe there's almost like a video of our lives, how we've spent our lives, and the things where we have really done wrong to others. They are haunting at the end of our lives, Nick. I know because I had a near-death experience, and I'll tell you about that another time. But I just know that if you have done great wrongdoing like that, those are the deaths where you see people writhing in agony. And these cops, Dan Andrews, Jacinda, I truly believe will be having those sorts of deaths. They have a lot to atone for as they leave this planet. What's your feeling?
I think that they're going. When you go that far that way, it would have to require and I'm not going to say specifically intellect, but a very low level of, not so much like holistic intellect, because obviously not discernment, all of those things. It must be very low for you to make the conscious decision to go in that direction that far, where you can't come back. You can't come back. You're lost now. You're completely lost. How do you repent now after, and I think that's why, the Jeffrey Epstein things, happen and occur. It's a way of, like an initiation, like the MS-13 gang members go through initiations to prove that they're horrible initiations. Well, we see that a lot of political people have gone through initiations like that. That would be why. That would be the way to encapsulate the mind and soul of somebody, because they go to this point that's so degrading and low that they can't come back from that anymore.
And that's Hollywood as well. Absolutely. Yep. So then you were taken off. You were arrested. What happened? Were you put in solitary? What was it?
Yeah, like? I was put in solitary for 15 days. I didn't get out of jail for. It's interesting because when I spoke to this is the God element too, right? I'm going into jail thinking this is ridiculous. I've done nothing wrong. How can this be? It's like the Twilight Zone. It's just like everything's turned upside down. And I get interviewed by these two detectives who weren't involved in the incident, and I had a bit of fun with them. Like we had a laugh, and I built a good good relationship with them. But I do the no comment thing, and they go, why won't you tell us anything? I say, because I don't trust you. Not that I don't like you, I don't know you, so how can I trust you? And I don't know how. They always say, well, this is your chance to tell us what's happened. I go, I'm intelligent enough to know that that's not actually why we're having this discussion here. You want me to incriminate myself?
Yes.
And so I did, but then I thought I'll try out the joke things. They ask you what's your date of birth, and I say, I can't remember. You'd have to ask my mum. I give you a phone number. They're like, oh, and then they go, where do you live? I go, oh, I live in my body. Where do you live? And they go, oh, what's your address? I say, I don't wear dresses. I don't care what you do, and but I just had a bit of fun with them, and they to see if they would engage or entertain in the fun, and they did. So then we just had a good chat about other things. In the end, anyway, one of the police officers comes up to me and said, "Oh mate," he was a decent bloke. He said, "I've seen the footage. I don't think you've done anything wrong, but I'm not the judge." Now that was very empowering for me when I'm about to go into jail for I don't know how long.
Wow.
I'm going in jail. What am I going to jail for? I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong, morally wrong or legally wrong. And then I've had the police officer tell me that he doesn't believe I've done anything wrong. Then I went to jail. I got strip searched by these two big Islander boys.
What's happened to your shoulder, by the way? Had they taken you to a doctor? They had
Oh yeah, they did. They
Yeah.
went to the hospital. They had to put it back. They had to put it back in. I had to go to emergency.
Which is
Put it back.
agonizing, Nick, to have
Yeah,
it.
no, it was awful.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had
So what,
yeah,
you had
and
a
then
sling on when they were cross-examining, or band?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was in a sling for a long time.
Wow.
But then I went to the jail. They they did the strip search thing, and there were these two Islander boys. They were the guys that work at the prison, and one of them he goes, "Hey, bro, have I seen you before?" And his eyebrow goes up, and I said, "Oh, I don't know, maybe." He said, "Avi Yemeni?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I've been on Avi Yemeni a few times." He said, "Oh, bro, you've done nothing wrong, bro." I was like, "Really? I know I have done nothing wrong." So there was two people in a short period who were on the other side saying you've done nothing wrong. See, that's very empowering. And then
Mm.
he said, "Was it the public order response, which is the port squad?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, we get lots of those here, bro." And then I had a friend in there, he was one of the guards, and he's coming up to me because they put you in a cell with nothing. Just like you don't even have a bed. It's just a concrete block. In
What? You don't
yeah,
have a
yeah,
bed. You just have.
yeah, this is the cells in the court in the city first, because they take you there first. And he kept coming in, through the night. "Hey, bro, you awake? Do you want something to eat? I'll give you something to eat." It was really nice to have that, just because, but I wasn't eating anything. I was just fasting, and I went, no, it's all right. But it was nice to have that human contact with someone that I knew was good.
Nick,
Very, very.
do you have a toilet? Do you have a blanket? Do you have something a
There's a
bed?
toilet,
Yeah.
and then they've got like a blanket thing on the That's what you get when you go
On
to
the
the.
concrete floor.
Yeah, it's like a blanket that you can roll up. It's sort of thick. That's all you get. That was just for one day. Then they took me to another prison, and I think they put me to another prison. Then they took me to another prison, and this is part of the process, is to put you through the strip searching stuff, and the processing is a whole day, right? And then that whole day again, and it's awful. It's agonizing. And it's psychologically, it would mess people up if they weren't mentally strong.
So
I
every time you go to a new prison, they strip search and go through the nonsense.
All the nonsense, and they make you sit in a tiny cell. They put you in a van where you're chained up in this little box, which is like this wide, and you're stuck in there. And then they take you, so then they leave you in there for hours. Then out of there, you get up and your back's sore. Then they put you somewhere. They strip search you, make you do all this ridiculous stuff, and they make you sit in that spot for another 3 hours. And you're just like,
This
what's
is
going on?
outrageous in a supposed Western democracy. I did not realize they did it this extreme. I know they did terrible things to people who were at Freedom Village who were arrested, but this is extreme levels of
Yep.
psychological warfare on you.
And what actually adds insult to injury is that the police who committed this offence, who lied on their statements to enable this prosecution to start, which wasn't even a prosecution, it was just a crime. The judge has this year ruled that they committed unjustified violence, and that their statements were disturbingly different from the body-worn camera footage that they provided. None of those police have lost their job as a result of that interaction. None of them have been charged by the state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just get away with it. They do this all the time. They can do this to people. And now I'm going them for costs, not compensation yet, but for costs. So legal costs, because I self-represented in 3 of those cases, but this big one was the one that I paid for representation.
And
And
was that with that brilliant lawyer, Jerry?
yeah, with Jerry, yeah.
He's fantastic, Jerry, and he's
And his
such an
morals are
ethical
good.
man. He's so moral. Yeah.
Yeah. So the bills, it's high. Like Jerry's been really good. He's been working with me, helping me to raise funds, helping me do all of those things, because it's a huge amount of work. But now the police, the DPP, which is the Department of Public Prosecution, they want to fight us on costs. Like, you think about how ridiculous this is. The judge ruled that you guys committed unjustified violence, that the prosecution was an abusive process, so we shouldn't have ever been prosecuted, and that your statements were false. And then the judge ruled that all the evidence has to be deemed inadmissible because of the way you procured it by committing violent acts to get us to react. And now that we've won, I want my legal bill paid for, and they're saying no. They
That's
want to
it.
fight us from that.
Which shows absolutely no remorse by these
None,
police. None
none at all.
whatsoever. In
So
my case, Nick, we added the sound to the visuals because they had these very obscured visuals that the police gave us. They kept all the other cameras. When we added the sound, you could hear the screams of pain as he assaulted, particularly me. And the judge never even said anything about the police action. And I agree with you, he'll probably never face anything on this earth, any kind of recrimination, the way the world is at the moment, this terrible thug cop. Do you think your thug cops will face any action as a result of you continuing with this?
Oh yeah, because once I'm in a position to, I'll lay criminal. I'll lay criminal charges against them because there's no statute of limitations on criminal offences.
Yeah.
So I need to do a civil action first because you only get a short period of time to do that, which we've started. I've got to get the costs back, but I can leave that for a little while. The criminal prosecution against those police, and I'm happy to do it because it needs to happen. Needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm thinking along those lines too. It's interesting. Nick, can we put up your bank account or a bank account into which people can put funds if they want to help directly with your case?
Sure. Yeah.
Good. We'll put it up at the end. If you could send that to me, we'll just put it in and it goes directly to you. It doesn't go via anybody else. That's great.
I've got a website actually that I've got a custom donation page called and it's on my website. It's if you just go fightcorruptpolice.com. I use the custom the custom donations because unlike the the GoFundMe's and they don't shut it down.
Yeah.
And it's not fundraising. It's donation. So you're able to do that. It's funny. There's like certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. But we've put the research in with a few of my mates, and that was the best one. And that's been how I've been able to fund a lot of these these separate battles with that big case. It's been using that custom donation page on the Fight Corrupt Police website.
So take us back to, you left us where you were in the truck, say the police van, and you were in a tiny space and you were manacled with a broken shoulder in a sling. So they didn't even need to do that, leaving you for hours, taking you from police station to police station. Nick, how were you managing mentally at this stage?
Well, this is the beautiful thing. The first cell they put me in on day 2 was in the Melbourne assessment prison. And I was in a cell where someone had carved in all these Bible verses on the walls and stuff. So I'm just reading. I'm like, I'm in the right place. Of all the places they put me in one that's got all these Bible verses in there. And then I just started. And I'm not much of a singer, but I started singing, gospel hymns. I'd sing that one. I'll go where you want me to go, dear Lord. I'll go where you want me to go. And you need to do these things to keep your spirits up.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. Were you sleeping at all? Were you getting enough sleep?
Yep, I was getting enough sleep. I didn't have any. When you're in a cell and there's nothing to do in a cell, and you're not eating either, it's easy to fall asleep.
Yeah. So you'd sleep. Well, you would keep your mind the way you said in a fight. You'd say, "There's no point thinking on those negative things, thinking on worries. I will keep my mind strong." Were you managing that?
Yeah, it was a bit hard. I didn't have contact with my wife for quite a while because because I was denied bail, right? I was denied bail.
On what grounds? On what grounds? You had done nothing wrong.
The magistrate said she believed that I would continue to defy the chief health officer's directions, so she's denying me bail at this time.
That is horrendous.
I was just going to say, it's not even. It's not a jailable offence to breach the chief health officer's directions. Like it's a finable offence. and they kept me in jail for that. Yeah.
It's for the goodness, for the health of all of us. I mean, give me a break. Can I ask how your family were coping as well? You must have an extraordinary wife. You never told me how she coped with the late night visits, and how is she now coping with you in prison on both counts? How did she get through it?
So my wife's LaRossa, she's very, very moral. She's very good. I have an amazing wife, and she's a beautiful, beautiful woman as well. Often people say, "How did you get her?" She's, and I'd say, "Well, actually, at the boxing gym where I go, or I went, I was there the other day when my children were training, and Phoebe, who works at the desk, she was talking about my wife. Said, "She's so beautiful. How did you get her?" And I said, "Well, that's the proof that God does bless people. That's a blessing from God. That's yeah." But she's a very moral, decent woman who understands that this is what's right, and we have to just be strong now, And if I didn't have a wife like that, wouldn't have the power I have to be able to do the things that I know I need to do. And that's why God puts people together the way He does. That's the whole thing. The biblical thing is that we're not whole parts. We come into this earth as a half part. You need the other half to become the whole. We're made in halves, and that's what we say, the other half. And like it says, He made an equal helper for the man, right? That's what it is. So that's what I really have that. A wife that doesn't go to war with me, and I don't go to war with her most of the time. Sometimes we do. It's the human condition. But she understands this needs to happen. I understand that this needs to happen, and we understand that God is all over it. Plus, we've been given such clear evidence from God that He's with us in various ways, where things happen where you go, there's no way that's a coincidence. That's impossible for that to have happened, and it did. And maybe one day we can talk about that. I don't have a lot of time now, but we can talk about some of those blessings that have happened and the timing of those blessings. And where if my wife would say that I can see that it's God, there's no other way that would have happened in that way.
I would really love to do a second part to this interview. We've covered up to where you are in the prison, and people have been able to see the videos on this. We're going to end with you in the height of your MMA fighting days, so people can see that warrior man. Nick, what you spoke about, the two halves and the strength of the family unit, that is at the heart of what the World Economic Forum Agenda 2030 has been trying to break, that we are not going to be these powerful, strong family units with strong men protecting the women and the children. They've tried to break that, exploded apart. So I really do want to deep dive in the next part into those ideas, and of course follow through on your court case. And I think also on the learnings from all of this that you can share, so that other people can take great strength, as I have talking to you, Nick, today. Great strength from the strength and the courage of you. It's been a real honour, this part one of our talk. Nick Patterson.
Thank you so much for that, and thanks for being just a beautiful, moral, decent person. And I think you're just brilliant, Liz. You're absolutely fantastic. So thank you.
Right back at you, Nick. Right back at you, and many New Zealanders and Australians will join me. Thank you.
How you going, guys?
No, we don't talk to police.
Yeah, well, you will talk to us.
Yeah,
you will.
Oh, yeah, why is that?
Because you're not wearing a mask, so you've got it.
Exemption, mate.
Yeah, can you show it to me?
I have to show it to you.
I want to confirm where you're from, mate. Yeah, no, come on, mate.
Police, unless I'm under arrest.
No, you're going to tell me where you're from because I believe you're outside 5K.
Based on what? What's your belief based on?
Well, show me your licence. Where are you from?
No, you cannot arrest me on an assumption.
No.
You need to have reasonable grounds. I'll quote you the High Court case. I'll quote you the High Court case. When a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, it requires when a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, it requires the existence of facts.
Cordon, everyone, cordon.
To induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. Please provide the facts to verify
What's your name?
belief that I'm committing an offence.
What's your name?
Show me your licence.
Where
You go
is
my
the
way.
facts
What's your name?
that I am committing an offence? Where are the facts? facts.
What's your name? What's your address?
I don't have to speak to you unless I'm
Your
on
name?
arrest. DPP.
Get out of my way. Push my way. Get out of my way. Push my hand.
Okay, and I will not
Your
be
name?
speaking to you.
Your name?
Okay, and if you arrest me now,
Badge
you
number?
go to grounds,
41942. So I couldn't get that? 41942. Thank you. Your name, please?
None of you
Excuse me, what's your name?
Constable Brennan.
Unless
Your
I'm
number?
under arrest and you have reasonable grounds
Thank
for
you.
that arrest, there is no arrest, I don't have to speak to you. I won't be speaking to you.
Yeah, so where do you live?
Don't push me.
1.5 metres.
Don't push me. Don't push me.
1.5 metres.
Don't push me.
Just like they did. It's none of your business.
Embarrassing what you guys do. Embarrassing.
It's none of your business.
Oh, you guys got to get a gun? You think you can bully me?
It's
Fuck
none of
you.
your business.
What's this intimidation? Why is everyone here?
None of your business. And make sure we get all of this and show how they treat people. You need reasonable grounds. It's the High Court case, George versus Rocket, 1990. When a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, including suspicion of belief, you said belief, it requires the existence of facts which are sufficient to induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. DPP versus Hamilton. I'm under no obligation to speak to the police unless I'm already under arrest. You guys don't know what the law is. You should not be being directed by the government, okay? It's inconsistent with Section 51 of your own Act, the definition of a constable at common law, and it says in your own Act, Section 51, that you're a constable at common law. Also, acting under dictation, being directed by the government is against one of the High Court cases, R versus Commissioner, the Metropolis of Police, ex parte, 1968. It's against that. Acting under dictation is how we get a dictatorship. It's against the law. I think you need to back off.
You have no idea about the laws. No idea.
To the police last night. There is no reason for you to be stopping me here. You're in breach of the peace, and I'm asking you to step
Okay, me neither are.
None of your business what my name is. I don't talk to you. I don't want to talk to you about any of that stuff. I'm not going to share any information with you. I don't trust you. You're not trustworthy, and I want you to step aside.
Yeah, so I believe you're committing an offence.
Based on what?
Because I believe you're outside your 5K.
Based on what? There has to be facts, or your belief is not valid at
Because
all.
you're not giving me anything else.
No,
but-
that's an assumption. I'm under no obligation to speak to you. That's an assumption. I'm under no obligation to speak to you unless I'm already under arrest. Okay? So to say because I'm not providing evidence to you, that is in conflict with DPP versus Hamilton. Okay? Supreme Court case.
Know your rights, buddy. Know your rights. Know your law. Know your rights. You arrest us, we'll take you to court and sue the shit out of you.
I've told you that I'm not going to share any information with you unless I'm already under arrest. And in order for you to have reasonable grounds for that arrest.
Hello, everybody. Name, numbers. Name, numbers.
Where's the social distancing?
I know. Social distance for me. Name, numbers. Name, numbers. We'll see all you monkeys in court.
DPP versus Hamilton, which apparently you guys all learn in the academy, and you should have learned that in the academy. I've had to learn that because of what you guys are doing. You don't know the law.
So whereabouts do you guys come from today?
It's none of your
None of your
business.
business.
So you're going to give me anything, or you're just,
I'm not going to give you anything. I don't want to give you anything. I don't want anything from you, and I don't trust you. I don't like you. I think what you're doing is a vile action against the people, and I think it needs to be
like have a face mask exemption?
none of your business.
Yeah.
You know, you can talk to them, but you know what? You're not going to. We're not going to talk to you. We don't want to talk to you.
Are you aware of the CHO directions?
No,
The directions.
It's relevant.
The
It's
directions.
relevant because I'm not going to talk.
Are
to
you under direction from the CHO?
Yeah, so I'm talking
Yeah?
to him.
No, I don't care. You're talking to us. You're talking to him. You're talking to all of
It's
us.
inconsistent with the definition of a constable, which is Section 51 of your Act, says the duties and powers of a police officer, Section 51 of your Act, you should know this, are as a constable at common law, and the definition of a constable in the LexisNexis legal dictionary, which is the most prominent legal dictionary, says a police officer has independent authority over their office and that they cannot be directed by the government or senior police. Okay, you're being directed by the government. That's called acting under dictation. That's systemic failure, and the fact that you don't know that shows that there's systemic failure in the system. You should know that. You should be doing your job properly. Okay.
You're talking above his IQ, Nick.
You should be arresting. You should be arresting the police.
All I'm trying to do is get your details. And
You're talking above his IQ, Nick.
I don't have to give you anything, and I know that. Based off what? Where's
I
the
know.
facts?
Have you guys got the Indian variant? Have you got the Indian variant?
You're trying very hard to fish for something so you can create a controversy. I'm not going to let you. Now, if you do arrest me, even if you were to find that I was wrong, you would actually find that you didn't have the grounds in the first place for that arrest, and it would be unlawful in the first place.
That's why I want to have this conversation.
But I don't want to have a
You don't know
conversation
how to
with
converse,
you.
buddy.
You're breaching the peace.
You don't. You're not
I don't
answering a
wanna
single
have
question.
Sit here all day and converse with you if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, no idea.
That would be,
At some
well, then
point-
you need to step aside and let me go, and if you don't, that'll be unlawful deprivation of liberty.
No, so-
And I'll take you to the cleaners for that.
No, so we don't
Unlawful
need to get to that
deprivation of
point.
liberty. Yeah, well, then you need to step aside.
No, I'm not
Am
gonna
I
step
under arrest?
aside.
Am I free to go?
I'm not going to step aside because
Do you answer questions? You've got a code of conduct. Your own code of conduct says that you need to respond equitably to the members of the public. Now I'm asking you, am I under arrest? Am I free to go?
You're not free to go.
So I'm under arrest.
Okay, so I'm trying to...
No, you said it. I'm under arrest then, aren't I?
If you refuse to give me your name and
I don't have to give you any name and address.
do,
I
because I
don't.
believe you committed an offence.
But there's no merit to your belief.
There's no
It doesn't have
offence,
facts.
there's no law, you
Without the
goon.
facts, it's
Seriously.
not- I'm not
Grow
guilty
a
until
break.
proven
Far out.
innocent. I don't have to give you facts. You're already in the
Joke.
academy.
All of you are joke.
Guys, I'm under no obligation to speak to the police unless I'm already under arrest. That's the Supreme Court of Victoria. The High Court of Australia says when a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, including suspicion and belief, it requires the existence of facts which are sufficient to induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. I'm a reasonable person. Where's your facts? And don't say I'm not giving you facts and that gives you that proves any point, because I don't have to give you facts. Because the Supreme Court of Victoria says I don't. And the High Court says you, without the facts, have no reasonable grounds to verify your belief. So I just want to know how you can be detaining me here without giving me any reason as to why.
Victoria Police overstepping their authority.
Oh, is there someone else? Are you replacing tag team effort?
I just listen for a moment.
Well, are you going to engage with us and answer our questions?
I'm going to engage with
Thank you.
If you'll just listen to me for a second. By being here today, you're in breach of the chose directions, all right? So you are risking...
Don't recognise them.
You are risking being arrested by the police. We are happy to arrest you if we have to, but we would prefer to give you the opportunity to leave now. Okay? So we're being fair to you, giving you an opportunity to leave. Otherwise, you will risk being arrested.
Just listen
for a
okay,
What's your name? What's your name?
It's none of your business what my name is.
We're trying to be civil. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
You're threatening to arrest us under a gun.
Then we have very different definitions of what civil is.
We're giving you an opportunity.
This is civil? This is civil? This is civil? Oh, the goons! Hello, goons.
Guys, is this civil?
Oh, that's civil? Excuse me, is that civil?
Whether you have
How civil is that?
You've got...
It's irrelevant. You don't have the grounds for it in the first place, and I know that.
We're not going to argue about that, but we do.
Well,
okay?
you don't, and we know you don't. So it's going to be, if you're confident enough, because I'm already going through the police conduct unit. I'm already setting up another, case against the PSOs that arrested me in the past. And hopefully, if you do it, Justin Goldsmith, Inspector.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin Goldsmith.
We're more than
And what's your badge
comfortable
number,
to make the
Justin?
arrest, okay? 29601. More than comfortable to make the arrest. We are giving you an opportunity, 5 or 10 minutes, to leave the area. Okay? So you've been given plenty of warning.
Could we not be
plenty of
surrounded then by
opportunity
all your squads?
intimidating. Well,
This is civil? This is civil? Look how civil.
This is civil. What is
Look how civil this is.
What we've
That's really civil. Hello, Hollywood.
Follow the law. Police that don't follow their own Victoria Police Act. Police that act under dictation, which is how you get a dictatorship, and it's against the law to act under dictation.
do you understand the direction that I've just
I
given
don't
you?
stand under any of your garbage.
Do you understand it?
Now.
All right.
I'm not standing
You'll be
under any
given
of your
5 or 10 minutes to move on.
I think you need to move aside.
You've been given plenty of opportunity. Otherwise, you risk being arrested.
Opportunity to
You already employed
Let's walk.
as a human being. But you
I'm interested to see if Nick attacks his legs, because, he doesn't have a lot of muscle down there.
He does got on his backside. Look, he has got a lot of very quick finishes, the American old Steve, but that's going to sometimes play against you as that fight does creep on. Nick looks like he's a sprinter ready to take off. This is going to be something special, Frank.
You ready to fight? Mate, I can't wait.
Second round, Ramon. Nick, a very unique athlete, able to produce massive amounts of force in very, very quick fashion.
Nick's got him hurt straight away.
Oh, that right hand.
Oh, he's landed a vicious knee inside. Great uppercut. He's dropped him with that uppercut. Nick's doing what he does. He's going to finish with a TKO.
Oh, Nick
he's
is
not
on
defending really well. This could be over in the end of the first round.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Man, that was incredible.
Whoa.
That was incredible.
Banjo Patterson.
He lit him up with an inside knee. He went straight to the canvas and finished with incredible punches from the back. The referee had no choice to finish to call a stop to that fight.
Oh, you can replay the whole fight. His hope leading out to the go home with his undefeated record intact. Sadly, there was a gentleman waiting for him in Australia by the name of Nick Patterson. It wasn't having a bar of that.
Please.
Looked like that uppercut's the main cause of the damage, and once he landed that, like I said, Nick has genuine knockout power.
Yeah, he's got bombs in his hands, and when he threw that, you can see at Roscoe's, he just buckled at the knees.
Oh, absolutely.
The American mate, he didn't know what he got hit with.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Greg Legends puts a stop to this fight. 38 seconds in the first round. Your winner by TKO from Australia, Nick Patterson.
And I'll tell you what, mate, that's going to do his stocks a world of good if the Americans are watching this.
Absolutely. You like to think this would come into play when the UFC come down to Melbourne. Nick's already got a sensational record now.